Hey everyone, welcome back to another Attack on Productions video. Fluff here, and I'm joined today by Jimmy and Jake. Say hey, guys.
Yes, sir.
What's going on, y'all?
As you can tell by the thumbnail, we are doing a top 10 3-drops of the Dragon Ball TCG. If you've seen the first drop, second drop, you kind of know what's going on. But those of you who might not have seen those, then let me just kind of give you the rules. So we picked, based on our opinion and our experience of the game, our top 10 favorite 3-drops over the course of the history of the Dragon Ball game. Couple rules: no super combos, no counters, no banned cards, no limited cards, no secret rares. So this is just kind of our top 3-drop battle cards. And starting off with number 10, we've got...
So at number 10, we got actually kind of a twofer for you here. We got Double Shot Super Saiyan 2 Vegeta, and then, as it's known, Freehan. Both of these cards they're similar. They have the exact same effect. It's just they're colored differently. And they both had their decks that they really shined in. Double Shot Super Saiyan 2 Vegeta really shined in the Pan deck, a classic deck that still to this day people are still trying to play, and it's still doing a lot of damage. This card allowed you to draw on your opponent's turn using your leader's ability, because it would come into play, give it 5k, 20k battle card, draw a card, which was just fantastic and kept Pan's hand really healthy and also kept its field really healthy. And Freehan, on the other hand, is called Freehan because you would play it in the original SS3, was a Heightened Evolution Super Saiyan 3, a meta that a lot of people like to look on very fondly, and then some people look back at it and say this leader never should have been a thing. But Freehan would basically just come out for free because you got 3 free energy at the end of every turn that you could use willy-nilly, and basically just put a 15k body on field and also gave you a 10k combo. Both of these cards are fantastic. The other colors got their own, but they were never as relevant as these two cards.
And then for number 9, we've got Explorer Bulma. This was a classic piece in a lot of Shenron decks, if I'm not mistaken, and was a huge enabler in Super Shenron, right, guys?
Yeah.
This card was mainly played a little bit before my time, but I used it in a lot of the later Shenron decks just to restand energy and keep digging through my list. Maybe one of you guys can give me a little bit of context on how this worked in Super Shenron.
So basically, you would abuse this card with Child's Wish. You'd combo this off to the drop area, pay your 2 energy for Child's Wish, play Explore Bulma. Then you would activate her auto, so the top 2 cards from the top of the deck to the drop area, restand the 2 energy that you spent on Child's Wish, and then draw a card. So this really helped the Super Shenron player meet their drop area requirements towards activating their 7-ball effect. So you would basically just recycle Explore Bulma over and over again. So you would use cards like Dragon Radar to add your Child's Wish back to hand. You'd combo the Explore Bulmas off, or swing with them, use Sensu Beans, restand your energy after using a Dragon Radar, and just recycle these over and over again with the early lineage package. So playing the Gohan and then going into the Bardock or the Goku after that.
That just sounds absolutely insane. So essentially you were milling your deck out in order to take an extra turn and just completely abusing that.
Yes. Yep. And it would create like 15-20 minute turns
Oof.
of where you were just sitting there watching your opponent play, and then once the turn was done, they'd go into their next turn, which was equally just as long.
Oh wow! I'm glad I started playing after this was a thing.
And moving on to number 8, we've got Explosive Spirit Son Goku, which debuted during Cross Worlds. The big thing that made this card particularly oppressive during its time was it was also released alongside the Shigesh Super Combo, also from Cross Worlds. So once you were at 4 or less life, you would combo Shigesh, and then the Shigesh would play Explosive Spirit Son Goku, which would let you KO one of your opponent's cards, and then it gave you a barrier blocker that was 10,000. So it was a play disruptor that, like, if your opponent spent their energy to put, I don't know, the 4-drop Kale on the field or anything like that, you just popped her off the field, You didn't have to take the damage, and you had a blocker boarded up to keep you from play. Now, unfortunately, Explosive Spirit did fall off once Shigesh got banned, but the card is still amazing, and we did actually see a little bit of support for this card come out in the first anniversary box. I believe that was the 2019 anniversary box. We saw a 2-drop that was designed to help tutor this guy back out to the field. So it's always a good card to keep in mind. A 10,000 bodies, not bad, but when you consider it's a barrier blocker that also pops a rest mode card, you just can't get over that. Plus, it restands at the end of the turn. So what more could you ask for out of a 3-drop from the third set in the game?
So at number 7, we got Super Saiyan Blue Kaioken Son Goku Concentrated Destruction. This is kind of become a new age red staple. Seen a lot of play when U7 was running rampant. This was one of the best techs against the deck. Due to its activate main for 2 energy, if your leader card is red and you place this card in your hand in the drop area, you just choose any of your opponent's battle cards ignoring barrier and it gets minus 25,000, which is pretty much hits every barrier card in the game that you would want to get rid of. And for 2 energy to pop a barrier card is just fantastic. And it also has Deflect in the auto skill to clear a field of 20Ks, which for 3 energy and Deflect there's not much better when it comes to field clearance.
Just one of the more versatile board wipes in the game, just in general.
When I think of this card, I just think of versatility.
And then, speaking of kind of versatility, I guess, we have number 6 with Crisis Crusher Son Goku. This card is really powerful in that it really nerfs 1-drops, and we've seen a lot of 1-drops, like especially in the video we made a couple weeks ago. Maybe you guys go check that out. That there are a lot of 1-drops in this game that are actually quite powerful, and Crisis Crusher can really save you from those. The fact that its energy cost can get reduced in the hand by 2 if you don't have anything else in play, you can really set yourself up for that and really go to town on your opponents, especially if you go first.
This card was put into the game to kind of combat the 1-2 swap meta that was really popular in Storm, and to combat a lot of the really powerful 1-drops like the Saiyan Kabas and decks that were abusing those 1-drop battle cards. And we've never really seen a big 1-drop spam meta since this card was released. It's all due to him just being incredibly powerful and really shutting down the 1-drop plays. We even seen with the new Bardock Crew package, it artificially boosts its energy cost on field to get around cards like this. This card is just insanely powerful and is a fantastic sideboard in almost every meta since then, because there's always 1 or 2 really good 1-drops that you would want to remove off of the field.
Next, we've got a 2-for-1 here. We've got set 9's SS Blue Vegeta Inspired Technique, and then we've got set 10's Son Goku Rival Seeker. So we kind of put these in a 2-for-1 because they really do kind of work to accomplish the same thing. The SS Blue Vegeta out of Universal Onslaught is probably one of the most sticky cards the game's ever seen. So he's a 19,000 Barrier Deflect Invoker. Invoker, if you don't know, you can, when paying the energy cost of a red-blue multicolor extra card, you switch one of your multicolor red-blue energy cards to rest mode instead of paying the energy cost. That's not once per turn. And let me just say, if you're not familiar, red-blue has a ton of gigantic extra cards that do really broken stuff. But the deck would stick the SS Blue Vegeta. There are very few cards that actually deal with it. And funny enough, the card that we talked about on the number 7 spot, SS Blue Kaioken, was kind of the first way to reliably just pick SS Blue Vegeta off the field. And then when we talk about Rival Seeker is really the card that enables your ability to go 0 or 8 to 0 life Catablow on your opponent without having to do anything and not opening reactionary windows for your opponent. So you don't really have to play the game with your opponent with Rival Seeker. It just lets you go Catablow from 8 to 0 life on your opponent. For that, they make our 5 spot on the list.
So in number 4, we have Son Goku Path to Greatness. This card when it dropped was one of the first like non-tournament pack cards. This was a power booster card, which nobody really knew how to get them because a lot of shops did not receive their power booster kits. So this is a hard chase card to get, and the price showed.
It was $150 to $200 if I remember correctly.
Yeah, this card on drop was insane, and it was not a ridiculous price tag for if you really think about what this card does. It made one of my favorite metas, to be completely honest, if we're talking about the yellow Broly meta, where you would abuse this card alongside High to Mastery and put out a 8-drop dual attack triple striker that tapped down 3 of your opponent's energy on play. This card enabled all of that. And we talked about Shigesh earlier. This was a great Shigesh target where you could just super combo play this card for free, tap 4, and put High to Mastery on field.
Yeah.
Like,
I really do think Path to Greatness was the reason that we saw Shigesh ultimately get banned. Because, we had the Explosive Spirit Goku before, but then, Path to Greatness, you don't even have to tap 3 energy to put him out. You just combo Shigesh, play him out, then on your turn 4, pay 4 for your swap 8. And actually, it went so fast that the Sparking 7 attached to that swap 8 was something you had to watch out for. Like, you could legitimately not have enough cards in your drop area to activate this card swap 8 because it was so easy to achieve. And
this card is just good as a generic 3-drop, even without any of the lineage stuff. Yes. I remember playing this card in my Tricolor Surge Coup build as a fusion target for the Gogeta 7. So, it's just so good. It's got great tags. Goku's lineage, Universe 7, Son Goku, nothing too restrictive, and allows it to be played in a lot of lists as just a solid generic 3-drop that replaces itself when it comes into play. And then next up at our number 3 slot, we have Son Goku Power of Legend, and the other free plays. There is a Poutine and a Bardock as well. These are from Rise of the Unison Warrior. And all of these are so powerful just by virtue of coming into play for free based on an interaction with your opponent. The one we have shown here is whenever your opponent discards a card, it comes into play for free. And this one is one of the more kind of in between, where I would say Poutine is more defensive and Bardock is more aggressive. The Goku Power of Legend is really in the middle, where it's got critical pressure, but you could also use it as just a straight-up removal spell.
Yeah, and these cards weren't all created equally either. I mean, the Son Goku Power of Legend is incredibly good. Bardock the Resolute, I think, is the red equivalent that gets Double Striker when your opponent takes a life by skill. And then the yellow one is Poutine, I can't remember what the Poutine is.
Yeah, that's why I brought up Power of Legend.
I know, but the Poutine, when your opponent's battle card is rested, you put the Poutine on, it's only a 5,000, but it has barrier, and your opponent has to tap cards anytime they would play a card with a skill or activate a counter. So Poutine becomes extra powerful, and all of these cards are just massive play enablers for the colors they support.
I think you get the most mileage out of Poutine per game, because, your opponent's just going to be countering and playing stuff by skill all game. But the other two aren't to be slept on either. I think they're pretty powerful in their own right.
And at our number 2 spot, again from Crossworlds, we've got Fearless Pan. So this little girl puts in work and has striked fear into the heart of many a player sitting across the table from her. A 3-drop barrier blocker auto when played gives all red leaders and red battle cards on your side of the field 5,000 double strike for the turn. So, we're seeing decks like King Piccolo, Red Broly, old Pan decks, old SS3, SS4 GT decks, or any meta-relevant red deck. Fearless Pan was always a contender. And it's funny enough, this card is so good that Jimmy and I were talking before about how we would just include a single copy of Fearless Pan in a deck, charge it, and then watch your opponent kind of scramble to not get Fearless Panned off the entire field, because then they know you're playing it, and it just kind of psychs them out of the game out of fear of doing this. I mean, it's hard enough to stop a field full of single strikes, but then you talk about stopping a field full of boosted double strikes. So, you know, it's Champa, but everything.
Yeah, this card is just, it hurts my brain now, like reading current archetypes and current good red cards and going back and reading this one, that I feel like every time I read this, I miss the red Saiyan leader only and red Saiyan battle cards only, or red GT only cards. Like the fact that it hits literally any red battle cards and it does not have to be mono red,
right?
It makes this card excel like higher and higher every single time they print another red card.
It's somehow ahead of its time by virtue of being old.
Yeah. It's a relic of an era gone past in this game. And we'll probably never see a card like Fearless Pan printed. And when we talk about cards that might potentially limit further game design, Fearless Pan's got to be a contender there.
Yeah, I mean, any red spam strategy has to consider this card's existence whenever it's being play tested, like in-house, you know.
Absolutely.
So, Fluff, what's on the table next for us, man?
Well, you couldn't include a top 10 without honorable mentions, am I right? So these are cards that we saw that are fantastic, great in their own right, but just didn't quite make it into that top 10 list.
So first off, we got Time Patrol Trunks. This was a card that was released in the Heroes and Villains expansion sets. It was one of the first times that we've seen the Overwhelm skill in the game, and became a instant like main board for a ton of decks. It's such a simple effect of looking at two cards off the top of the deck, putting one in your hand and putting on the other on the top or bottom, which we really don't see a lot of skills where it allows you to legally stack your deck.
Yeah.
And also put a body on field for completely free, which was unheard of at the time this card released. And I still think to this day, it's still a very useful card in some decks. And it's always a consideration for me when I'm trying to figure out how can I abuse a top deck situation.
This is the first Time Patrol Trunks was the first time that I saw Bandai released a product, and on release day, I can remember they released the villain and hero expansions, and I went to go get the villain expansion, and they had the hero expansion sitting on the shelf, but the villain expansions were sold out. Like you could not find these anywhere. And being a card included in an expansion, this was like a $50, $75 card for a long time. Like this card really was sought after at Afora for quite a while. I would say up until probably set 4.
Yeah, I remember seeing those kits being the heroes being readily available for 30 to 50 depending on where you're at, and then the heroes and villains were like in the 200s because it included 2 of these cards.
Yes.
So my honorable mention is a card that has struggled to hit 200 cents in its price history. And that's Bodyguard Legic. I mean, he might not be expensive or flashy, but he's a free 15k blocker, and he synergizes perfectly with, like, the Pan Leader or any kind of red spam strategy. And we were just talking about Fearless Pan. Legic benefits from her as well, and he's a goofy-looking alien with swords. I mean, how do you not like this? I struggle to not include this in my red decks just based off the virtue that it's absolutely free.
There was a time in the game's history where when you were deck building, you would just include like 2 copies of Legic. Just in the event you went second and you opened a Legic in your hand. Because if your opponent played a battle card, it was just a free 15k card on the field. Regardless of the fact that he was also a blocker, you just included him just to throw him out on the field to have that energy ramp. Or, it was basically a tempo swing for you, because starting out immediately, you got a free 15,000 that could pressure the opponent's leader or help pick off other little cards on the field or defend if you chose that's what you needed to do. The card was massively flexible for its time. And last honorable mention is the Test of Strength Goku and Test of Strength Oob from Themed Booster 2. I think these cards, and the reason that they did make the list was they were kind of specific. They're locked to World Tournament But I really feel like when you talk about what a 3-drop needs to be included in a deck, for me, Test of Strength Goku and Oob really set the bar for that. For the longest time, and this may even still be the case, I think it gets edged out at this point in the game's history, but as of, set 9, set 8, what was more valuable than paying 3 energy to play a Goku, than getting to free play an Oob on top of that? And you basically had a 20,000 crit, 20,000 double strike. You got to bounce a card back, and you got to draw a card. Like, it was just a ton of value.
2 cards. Remember that part.
Yeah, bounce 2 cards.
Yeah.
So, it was a ton of value for 3 energy spent. And 3 energy in over the course of the Dragon Ball game, if you look at our top list, almost none of these do we actually pay 3 energy for. I think Fearless Pan is the one exception there. So that really shows what a card has to be in order to pay 3 energy for it.
And the only time you're hard casting Pan is when you're saying, I'm going to win the game.
So, to me, Test of Strength Goku, Test of Strength Oob, they set that marker. A card has to at least do this and give you this type of value before I'll spend 3 energy on it.
Finally, number 1. You might not have expected it, since a lot of people don't realize that this is a battle card. Shout out to our boy Bancroft. Yeah. Ask him about that story. Beg him to tell you that story. But Furthering Destruction Champa, believe it or not, this is a battle card. I don't think anybody's ever hardcasted this card or ever swung with it. But it has probably won more games single-handedly than any 3-drop in the entire game. Probably... I would like to see, I don't know how we could get this information, but I would like to see the amount of games won by Furthering Destruction Champa, because I feel like that is a very, very high number.
I'd say it's probably at least a quarter of all Dragon Ball games played, in a tournament setting.
Oh, it's got to be.
Yeah. And if you don't know what this card does, if you combo with it, it's 1 energy. You choose one of your attacking battle cards, it gets double strike, or one of your attacking cards, and it gains double strike for the battle. It's such a great surprise swing, because you can swing with any weenie and then turn it into a massive threat for 1 energy. It's a staple. You run it at least a 1 of in pretty much every deck. I've made it a rule that if I'm building a deck, I'm including 1 Champa if it's allowed. Shout out to Bancroft. You can run the Kai, but why would you want to do that when you can run the Fat Kitty and he's a 3-drop, so he fits on the list? This isn't a 2-drop list.
Every time I've built a deck and not including Furthering Destruction Champa, even if every card that I run in the deck is theoretically a double strike, everything but the leader is a double strike, I will inevitably, first event that I play a deck, going, God, I wish I had a Champa right now. If every other card in the deck had double strike and leader was the only thing that was not double strike, I would want Champa in the deck.
Very few cards in Dragon Ball can change the math of the battle, other than combo power, can change the life math of the battle during the battle, and that's what makes this card so powerful. And also, like Fearless Pan, it's ahead of its time by virtue of being old, where it just says card, so you could put this on a Unison, a leader, a battle card, does not matter.
We're talking about Furthering Destruction Champa from the prospect of closing games out. But if you consider Red Brawly stuff, and you being on 5 life and your opponent awakening their leader, swinging with their lead, it's a critical, then they throw a Champa on it, and now you at 5 life with maybe 6 or 7 cards in your hand are facing a $40,000 or 40,000 triple strike or double strike crit into your life. Do you take it and go down to the 3 life, which is a very fragile place to be against Brawly, or do you waste your entire hand preserving your status at 5 life?
They've got you either way.
Yeah, they've got you either way. Well, I think that, ladies and gents, is our top 10 3-drop of the Dragon Ball TCG. I hope you guys liked it. We love making these videos that take us forever in making them, just because we get caught in debating and arguing which should be number 6 over an honorable mention or a number 7. But I did mention it at the start of the video. If you like what you're seeing here, leave us a comment, subscribe, hit that bell for notifications type stuff, begging for YouTube attention because daddy didn't love us or something like that. I don't know.
Yeah, something like that.
something like that.